Welcome to the Beyond Jiu Jitsu Podcast. I'm your co-host, Kieren Lefebvre, joined by
Adam Jards. Just watch Kieren do the intro and almost forget to unmute the microphones.
But I didn't. Here we are. Episode number 19.
Cranking through them, bro.
Come on down.
Episode 9. Did you used to watch The Price is Right?
Oh, yeah.
It was like daytime
yeah.
TV. Oh, no, I can't remember for me. Was it daytime TV? I don't know. But I remember when I was a kid and I would have a day off from school because you were sick or whatever. And the internet didn't exist. So you only got to watch what was on TV.
Showing your age here.
And it was garbage.
Wait, did you watch the original Price is Right or the one with the with the like the newer one? With I forget his name, but he's the same guy of Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Drew Carey.
Drew Carey. How did I
that
blank
dude's
on that?
funny.
Yeah. Did you watch Drew Carey version or the original version?
Oh,
Because I only saw the Drew Carey version.
I can't remember. Actually, I don't even know.
Wow.
I can't remember. But now, I haven't watched an episode of that show in decades. But if I ever see it online or something, it's a terrible show. It's like it's reminding me. I did see once someone who scammed them. It was like one of those very clickbaity YouTube videos, like top 10 lists or whatever. It was like the top 10 people who had been caught cheating on game shows or something. Right. And there was someone who managed, I can't remember how, but someone managed to cheat on The Price is Right. Someone managed to cheat on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
I think we've spoken about this before.
Did we?
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, and they like in the Millionaire one, they did coughing cues and
they had someone
from
the audience and other game shows where people have cheated. Man, like massive money. Actually, I wonder how much money they get. Like if you won Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and you walk away with $1 million, how much of that do you actually get to keep?
Yeah, I don't know.
And I think it's similar with like America's Got Talent and all those and X Factor and all those sort of shows. Yeah, there's heaps of people who have gone on to say that, or even like previous winners who have gone on to say that it was actually not worth it, because after, I think Kelly Clarkson, right, was the first chick who won the first America's Got Talent. And
but now she's like uber famous, right?
I don't know if she's uber famous. I don't know. Like, when's the last time you heard Kelly Clarkson on the radio?
Well, I'm just saying, like, she's more famous now than she would have been.
Yeah,
so it's like a launching pad more than like the value.
I guess, but they retain heaps of control and the money and everything, so you kind of not really actually getting to do your music or whatever your talent is.
Anyway, this is Jiu Jitsu Podcast.
Wait, what?
Hang on a minute. Are we recording?
Yeah. What's on the cards today?
So episode number 19, we're talking about how to avoid burning out.
Burning out, bro. Jiu-jitsu is a long process. I'm already burnt out of this conversation.
Burnt out of this. Yeah, this conversation. 3 minutes and 20 seconds in, you're done.
No, yeah,
super entertaining.
Yeah, no, but for sure, it happens a lot, right? I don't know if you would have experienced dips of motivation and drive in previous competitive bodybuilding that you did, for sure. I don't know if you've experienced it yet in jiu-jitsu, like if you take away the lockdown from 9 months of training or something, it's quite a short period of time. So you probably wouldn't have experienced it considering how much you froth on jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, no, not yet.
But for sure, we've never had this conversation before, but I would bet my life on it that there were times that you were lacking motivation to go work out and whatnot when you were competitively bodybuilding, right? There would have been days where it would have been hard to be,
It comes and it goes. Like, I think the difference between the two is when I was doing like my amateur bodybuilding stint, there was this like sinking feeling in the back of my mind. If I didn't go train, like I'm going to step on stage in, X amount of weeks or X amount of months or whatever. I'm going to look like shit and I'm going to embarrass myself. And
they're all going to laugh at me.
Yeah, exactly. So there was like this almost, I don't know how to explain it, but it was the fear of embarrassment outweighed the lack of motivation at the time. It's just
this cloud of shame hanging over you.
Yeah, legit. not super healthy, but yeah, it was a bit interesting.
I think one of the things that why they lose motivation or why they get burnt out in jiu-jitsu, I mean, there's obviously multiple reasons, but one of the first ones is that the fact that it's such, it's so cliche to say, but a lifelong journey. You never stop learning, blah, 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 all that stuff. So it can be, easy to burn out when it's something that is so long term. And after your initial sort of progression, because any new sport, activity, skill that you try to acquire, when your starting point is zero, you're like, day one, you've instantly progressed, tenfold, right? So after that initial jump in progression, the progression of jiu-jitsu, that line starts to flatten out. So people can easily start getting burnt out with these, sometimes what feels like years without getting better. But I've mentioned this before. You got to remember that the people that you're training with are also getting better.
Yeah.
But unless you compete all the time, which, we've done previous episodes where I've mentioned the importance of competition. However, unless you compete, your only reference point of your improvement is really your training partners that you train with on the regular, but they're getting better too. So you're just constantly, even if you know that and tell yourself that, it doesn't kind of change the feeling of not feeling like you're getting better.
Yeah. I've had that feeling very temporarily, but it required someone, I think yourself and Joey, a brown belt, to be like, dude, you've been training for like 2 weeks, shut up. Like pretty much, like basically saying in the lifespan of a white belt's journey, because I'd been training for like 10 months or so at that point, you were saying things along the lines of 2 weeks without progression it seems like a long time, but dude, pull your head in, basically, which makes sense. Like, fuck, man, I was being a sook, but no, I haven't really experienced that, burnout period, because I feel like I'm still in the beginner gains phase. And like you were saying, I think we could liken it to just fitness and bodybuilding for just a moment. When anyone that starts training in general, right? You start going to the gym, you start lifting weights, you're going to experience a lot of what we call beginner gains. So you put on muscle very quickly, you get stronger very, very quickly as your body rapidly adapts to the demands that you're putting on it. However, this period, depending on the individual and the genetics, can last like 6 months, 12 months. But after that, it's very much a very slow slog that requires consistent effort, both in and out of the gym. And you're going to get very minor incremental gains over a very, very long period. So it's very similar in a sense that jiu-jitsu is the same. However, because I'm still a white belt, I'm still learning rapidly. I'm, in my opinion, very much in the beginner gains phase. I haven't reached that slump of, I'm not getting better.
Yeah.
Because I am.
Yeah. I think for me, once, I felt like I was in beginner gains for a long time. The whole white belt period was beginner gains. And then even once I had my blue belt and I moved to Brazil, I was training so much. It was such a huge amount of information always. So I kind of didn't get burnt out because I was constantly getting fed new information that kept me interested and engaged. It wasn't until, probably wasn't until towards the end of my blue belt and my purple belt where I had my first period of really kind of feeling frustrated with the sport, because I stopped. It wasn't every day I was seeing something new anymore. I had multiple injuries and the grind just started getting really difficult for me. But there's a few things that I personally do that I use, or things that I kind of remind myself or change the way I think about it to not get burnt out, right? The first is perhaps not unique to me, but it's going to depend on the individual, which is just understanding why you're doing the sport in the first place. Everyone does jiu-jitsu for different reasons. So if you're doing it just as a hobby, right, for whatever, or for the social aspect and blah, 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 I mean, if you get burnt out, just take a little bit of time off, take a week or two off or something and go back to it, right? If that's what jiu-jitsu is to you, right? For my case, it was something that I chose to do. Like even when I was a blue belt and I moved to Brazil because I had decided that I was going to pursue jiu-jitsu, right? Always with the intention of opening a gym and, initially had, the big goals to win worlds and stuff, didn't happen. But I had the goal that jiu-jitsu was going to be my career. So for me, I knew the reason I was doing what I was doing. So that helped avoid any burnout feelings, like if I felt burnout, like I could easily remind myself, man, like
your why.
This is what, how are you going to, if you quit now, how are you going to go home and open a gym? Like quitting for me felt no different to someone dropping out, halfway through uni.
Yeah.
It's like you can't then take half a degree and do something with it, like, so I think the why is important because then, like I said, if you are just doing it, if you are just doing it as a hobby, man, like, yeah, just take a little bit of time off. It's not that big of a deal, right? However, if it's something like in my case, yeah, the why, but something that's really important, and you've probably heard this before, Kieren, or most people who actively compete in a sport have probably heard this, and it's the word motivation, right? And motivation is not the correct word when you think about training. People go, "Oh, I'm just not motivated." Like, well, who gives a shit, bro? Like motivation, motivation is something you can get from watching an inspiring YouTube video or your favorite song coming on or whatever. Motivation comes and goes. It's easy to do stuff when you're motivated. It's not about motivation. You don't need to be motivated. You need to be disciplined, right? And for sure you with something like bodybuilding that, like you said, once you're in it and you're past your beginner gains phase, I've never done active, weightlifting, right? I mean, like I've lifted weights, but I've never lifted weights as a sport, right? Like whether it's powerlifting or bodybuilding or anything like that. But I do know exactly like you said, once you're past beginner gains, it is such a small amount of incremental gains over such a long period of time, right? And I reckon any bodybuilder or power lifter or whatever, or strongman who told you that every single day they were motivated, they'd be so full of shit, right?
Yeah.
They're incredibly disciplined, right? And I think any professional athlete is, right? Any professional athlete, like, yeah, they're motivated as well because they love what they do and whatever, but it's discipline, right? You have to be disciplined. And, so when you're feeling burnt out, it doesn't matter that you're not motivated. Have a cup of discipline, bro, and turn up to the gym.
Yeah, a cup of cement, lighten up. So motivation to me is like, an emotional state, right? It's an emotion that you experience. It's kind of like happiness or whatever. Motivation to me is like emotion.
Yeah.
And one saying that I really, really like is that emotion follows action, not the other way around. Meaning once you start something, then you feel motivated around it. Then you feel good about it. Then you're keen to continue. However, if you're waiting for an emotion to dictate your decisions in life, or your actions, I should say, in life, then you're going to be waiting a while.
Yeah.
And you're relying on something that you have limited control over, or maybe fleeting, or it's just a very backward way to look at something like a jiu-jitsu. I know we're talking like, to some people out there, jiu-jitsu is a hobby and they're like, what are these guys smoking? Like, why are they taking it so seriously? But I mean, you can apply this to anything though.
Yeah, 100%, right? But
so show up to the gym and then you'll feel motivated to train.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I know a lot of people that train that sometimes they don't want to be there at the beginning. Like they're like, fuck, I just couldn't be bothered today. Fuck jiu-jitsu, rah, rah. And they say it sort of ironically, but there's truth behind it. A couple of purple belts at our gym, not naming any names. But then once they start training, they train like animals and they fucking love it. And after it, they're sitting there in a steaming pile of exhaustion. And they're like, this was fucking amazing. This is what I needed.
It happened to me this week, right? I had a Zoom class because we're still locked down here in Sydney. Had a Zoom class that I just wasn't really motivated to do. I just wasn't really feeling it. I was like, oh man, I so couldn't be bothered. But I did it. And then it was like after the Zoom class, I was like, man, that was so good. I can't wait to do another one.
Yeah.
Like I was then after the fact motivated to do another one.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Because emotion follows action, not the other way
Yeah.
around.
Whereas
You sound like Jed Goggins right here. Like this is
who?
Jed Goggins.
Like
Oh, David Goggins. Sorry. Oh, Jed Goggins is someone else.
I don't know.
David
It has
Goggins.
not helped
David-
me understand who we're talking about.
You haven't heard of David Goggins?
No, it sounds like a made up name.
David Okay. Wow. Wow. You remember when I didn't know who that Olympian is? What was her name?
Simone Biles.
Okay. If you're a new listener, like rewind ages ago, I didn't know who some Simone Biles chick is. And now you don't know who David Goggins is. What is wrong with you?
Who is Dave? No, never heard of him.
You never heard of David Goggins. Please Google David Goggins right now. David Goggins is an ex-Navy SEAL.
How would I know that?
Just bear with it. He's an ex-Navy SEAL. He's an author. He's an athlete. He holds the world record for the most pull-ups in the 24-hour period. He runs like ultra marathons. He's a endurance athlete, a motivational speaker. He's an inspiration to millions. And you've never heard of David Goggins, our Lord and Savior. Wow. Wow, bro.
No, I've never heard of him.
We'll have to get him on the podcast. So
Yeah, I'm sure he's super reachable. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, he's great. And
His memoir, Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah, his book Can't Hurt Me is it's a good read for those out there that haven't heard of David Goggins. Please get onto it.
People who are listening to a podcast, they can't read.
Yeah, I was so confused when I was like, do not compute. But yeah, so I don't even know why I brought him up. Oh yeah, we sound like him. We sound like super motivational. Like
right.
Yeah, he's very
Tony Robbins. I know who Tony Robbins is.
Yeah, but like
he was like the first sort of motivational speaker, right?
He was one of the first like gurus of the self-help movement. Not the first, but he was one of the first. But David Goggins is very much like, don't let your inner bitch control you.
Is he?
Yeah, he's
right.
He's always like swearing and yelling at the camera. Every motivational video that he has on Instagram is him running next to a car and like his wife is in the car like filming him and he's just like talking like, I didn't feel like running today, but I fucking ran because I'm not a little bitch. I told my inner bitch to shut up and all this sort of shit.
It sounds like an Old Spice commercial.
Yeah, well, a little bit, but like probably less PC. But watch his stuff. And like, as you were saying things like, oh, you watch a motivational video and then you like feel keen, but he's a very good analogy for that because sometimes, he says openly that he will stare at his running shoes for like 45 minutes. He'll just look at them for 45 minutes and not move, like trying to conquer his inner bitch to go for that, 3-hour run that he's got planned or whatever, or even do whatever workout that he has planned to do. And, it's the whole like motivation follows action.
Yeah.
Like
how much time's this dude got? 45 minutes to stare at shoes.
Yeah. Well, he's 24 hours in a day.
Yeah. Oh God, I feel like every episode I mention Arnold Schwarzenegger. But he says he says in one of his speeches, he's like, oh, you got 24 hours in the day. He's like, so you sleep for 6 hours, so you got 18 left. He's like, now I see some of you out there being like, whoa, hang on. I sleep 8 or 9 hours. And he goes, well, then I just suggest you sleep faster. Yeah. So good.
That's one thing, like we're getting a little bit off topic, but I suppose it's related to motivation and discipline. But I'm not a fan of the whole like sleep less movement. Like there's some videos out there like famous people saying successful people only sleep 6 hours a night. I think that's bullshit. I think that you could get more out of your time and be way more productive if you did sleep for 8 hours. Yeah. So you could use the remaining hours to, do better.
I think you could argue it's a semi, I don't know if controversial is the right word, but there's studies that suggest multiple different things. I mean, of course, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I do.
Really?
Yeah, I know, right? Despite the way I talk, I do know that the scientific area of sleep is the knowledge that we have is incredibly limited, not for lack of trying. It's just still something that scientists don't know as much about.
Know everything.
Yeah,
no.
They don't know as much about sleep as they would like to.
There's a book by a guy called, I believe it's Matthew Walker, and it's called Why We Sleep. And I learned a lot from that book. Apparently not everything in there is like, he does bend some studies a little bit, just, you know, because he's selling an idea at the end of the day. But the premise of the book is how important sleep is, and it's a less sleep is good movement,
Right.
and he's fighting back against the whole situation where people say, you know, sleep 6 hours a day and then work the rest. But like, the argument is, if you were to sleep 8 hours a day or even 9 hours a day, your remaining 16 or 15 hours in that day, way more productive.
Well,
so you can produce a better product than someone that sleeps for 6, even though they have more time.
It's almost like how a lot of these like European countries now are implementing like 4-day work weeks, and you know,
sign me up.
have you not heard this? Haven't you heard this? There's like I think maybe the first place to trial it, I could be wrong here, but I think it was like Stockholm or something, and they did something where it was only 4-day work weeks, and you only worked like 5 hours a day instead of 8 or 10 or 12 hours a day, with the same logic that
to be more productive.
That people would be more productive. And some countries
Swedish people are pretty lazy.
Don't worry, your girlfriend doesn't listen to this podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, my girlfriend is Swedish, for those that don't know. So I've been to Stockholm in like 2018, I think. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
And you were like, why isn't anyone at work?
Yeah, what the fuck? It's dark, it's cold, it's fucking wet. This is shit. Stockholm is awesome. I loved it. Sick. All Viking shit everywhere.
But yeah, so sleeping faster, as Arnie would say. I don't know. I like to nap. I think naps are great.
Naps are good. I think I can't really get around them too much lately because I oversleep. Like, you know, I can't have a 20-minute nap. When I go down for a nap, I wake up 3 hours later, like, fuck. It's not a nap at that point. It's a sleep.
Yeah.
You know,
it was a while ago we had something booked, and I think we had a Zoom call or something booked.
We
and
had
an Instagram live or something booked. Yeah. And then I was like, we doing this? And like an hour later, you're like, shit, sorry, bro. Took a nap.
Yeah, that was when I was experimenting with daily naps, but I've cut that away. So I just focus on, you know, getting my 8 hours sleep.
8 hours.
Not that I do every time, but fuck. Anyway, this is not a sleep podcast.
Yeah. So, motivation versus discipline. But I think one thing that people forget a lot about, you know, when we're ignoring beginner gains. So now you've been training for whatever it is, 1, 2, 3, 5, 20 years, right? And you're feeling burnt out. Again, always remind yourself of the why. So the why and the motivation versus discipline, I think, tie in really crucially when it's something like preparing for a competition, right? So that's another common period that people get super burnt out, because if you're preparing for a big competition, let's say you're preparing for Worlds or ADCC trials or something like that, you've probably started your training camp or your hardcore, for lack of a better word, your hardcore preparation, you know, 4 or 6 or 8 weeks in advance, and then you're probably dieting, potentially cutting weight, right? Super easy to get burnt out. I mean, you then have to remind yourself of the why and the discipline, right? To not burn out during an intensive fight camp, right? But past that, moving on from motivation versus discipline and the why is, I try to remind I never need to remind myself because it's sort of just natural for me, but I remind my students that most of us do jiu-jitsu because it's fun and we have fun doing it, right? So, you know, not every day in the gym, again, we're ignoring preparing for a competition, right? If you're someone like myself, like yourself, who trains pretty much every day, right? As in 5-6 days a week, you're there so often. Not every day or every class or session needs to be a competition class. And we do jiu-jitsu because it's fun, right? So what do I mean by fun? For me, fun can be trying new techniques, right? In a roll and not caring if I get passed or swept or submitted, right? Or, you know, so I kind of almost think about it like video games or video game characters. You know, if I'm playing a video game, let's say whatever, like a classic video game like Street Fighter or something, I'm not the person who picks that one character and plays that one character forever. You know, like it's fun doing different characters, and I'll like play this one for a bit and play that one for a bit. And I kind of like do the same with jiu-jitsu, right? And anyone who's trained with me for long enough would know that, you know, I'll go through a period of time where I'm only doing this one thing because I'm having fun doing it, right? But then I change what I'm doing because I want to do whatever's fun for me at that point in time in my roles. Of course, if I'm preparing for a competition, that's different. I'm working on my specific game plan to compete. But outside of that, man, jiu-jitsu is fun. So I do the things that are fun, right? Recently, what was I doing a little while back? It feels so long ago since I trained. We've been locked down in Sydney for...
I don't even want to know.
Yeah,
like 3 months or something.
Yeah, I mean, anyone from Melbourne listening is like, you go, babies, little bitch,
Well,
get that
gym.
David Goggins dude back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing bolos. Okay, bolos aren't a new technique, but they're not a technique that is implemented in my competition game. It's not my A game. I've never done a bearing bolo in competition because it's not what I do. But I was having heaps of fun playing with them in my roles, right? And I didn't care if me playing around with a bearing bolo resulted in a white belt passing my guard. I don't care, man. Like I'm there having fun. So I think it's important to remind yourself, if you're feeling burnt out, like you do jiu-jitsu because it's fun. I always compare it to other sports that are more seen as something that people do because they're fun, opposed to, just exercising like surfing or rock climbing or snowboarding. You know, you do those because they're fun, and they also happen to be a type of exercise. You know, so when my friends who don't train or don't even work out at all are always like, man, how do you stay in shape? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, I actually don't really like exercising that much or working out that much. You know, if you were to ask me to go do CrossFit, like I'm not really into that sort of stuff. I just like jiu-jitsu because it's fun and it happens to be a type of exercise. So, you know, I think it's really important to remember that you do jiu-jitsu because you have fun doing it.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say, just linking this back to the exercise piece, like I genuinely have fun lifting weights. And whenever I go through
a lot of people do, right? Exactly, yeah.
I fucking love it. And when I do go through a period of like, you know, forcing myself to go, I'm lacking in that motivation, not necessarily discipline because I'm still rocking up, but maybe I'm not putting in as much effort in, then I'll change my program. I'll work on a new goal. I'll say, okay, now I'm focusing on mobility, or I want to learn how to swing around some kettlebells, or I want to learn a bit of powerlifting. So it's the same concept.
It's a similar thing, right?
Same concept.
Yeah,
with jiu-jitsu. And you can apply this to so many different things that are a never-ending pursuit.
Yeah.
You just choose something else to focus on. You move the goalposts. You set yourself mini goals.
Yeah.
Like you say, okay, so this month or even this week, I want to work on bearing bolos, or I want to learn stack passing. I want to get stack passing to a point where I can stack pass people that are at my, you know, jiu-jitsu equivalent level.
Yeah.
100%. I could not agree more.
One of the other things that makes, you know, that makes a big difference as well is, you know, if you're really feeling burnt out, sometimes you need to ask some bigger questions as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you know, what's the vibe of the gym that you train at? Like maybe you're feeling burnt out because, you know, maybe, I don't know, whatever. Like I'm not saying you started in a bad gym and you've always been in a bad gym or whatever, but like maybe the gym you're currently at because you've moved around or you're overseas or something, right? But maybe you're feeling burnt out because the gym that you're in is not the atmosphere of the gym you're not enjoying. You don't enjoy the training partners that you're with. The coach isn't invested in you personally and your progression, right? So that can easily make you feel burnt out. I was recently on the Jungle Brothers podcast, which I've been on a few times, and talking with Joey, who's hosts the Jungle Brothers podcast and is one of my students. We briefly spoke. Well, we were essentially talking about what it's like having jiu-jitsu taken away from us at the moment with lockdown and not being able to train and all that. And we got on to Joey talking about when he started training with me and the gym he was previously at, he didn't feel like anyone was really involved in his progression as a student. No one, he didn't have anyone really caring about him, right? So I don't want to be dissing on that gym, but I'm just saying that's definitely a reason to feel burnt out, unmotivated, and then not have any discipline to turn up, right? Like he felt like, he wasn't invested anymore.
It's a byproduct of his environment, I suppose.
Yeah, right. So, that's something else you've got to look at, right? Is your coach invested in you as a student? Yeah. Do you enjoy the vibe? Do you enjoy the students you're with, your training partners? Because that makes a difference as well, right? Especially if you're a social person and you've become friends, like, good friends with your training partners, that makes it much easier to train as well. Cause it's almost like you're
hanging out with your friends. It's social.
Exactly. Right. I mean, and for me, that's pretty much my only social interaction is like
no one would hang out with you normally.
Exactly. Right. Like, I have to, it's actually funny. The way I get so many students is I pay them a membership fee just to
what the fuck, man?
just to come hang out.
I'll send you an invoice.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think if I was to, put on my, hey, I'm going to be David Goggins again, motivational speaker here, I would look internally. I would look at your why. I would look to make the sport fun again. In your words, like choose a different path to go down, as in like, hey, maybe I mostly play top pressure. Let's improve my guard now. Let's only play guard for X amount of time. Do those things. And then if you've ticked all of those boxes and you're still feeling like something's not right, it's not for you, but you still want to pursue jiu-jitsu, then look at your environment. Look at what's around you. I'd definitely look internally first and then look externally. Just try not to get philosophical here, but I think if you look around to other people, you may be projecting your own issues 100%, first.
Yeah, and I think that's why we had mentioned at the start, exactly the why and, discipline, motivation and all those things. And, making sure that you're as an individual making it fun. And then exactly like you said, after that, you can look and go, well, is it the environment that I'm in? Yeah. I wouldn't lead with that.
Is my coach good for me?
Yeah. It's always someone else's fault.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't do that. Don't be a dick.
Yeah. But, man, like again, I've just, another thought popped into my head. I know I already said it, but I'm just thinking back to another sort of phase I was going through. For me, it is so similar to it's a similar feeling I get from, God, I hate video games again. I grew up in that sort of generation where I had a Sega Master System and then I had a PlayStation and a Nintendo.
Did you have a Nintendo 64?
I didn't have a Nintendo 64. I had a
sacrilege.
Super Nintendo. Whoa, calm down. I had a Super Nintendo.
64 shits on Super Nintendo.
Of course it does. It's a newer console.
No, but all I mean is like, I would say that a Nintendo 64 shits on a PS2. Like in terms of gaming lineage is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like
now
that period was
nowadays
vastly superior.
But I guess, look, my parents weren't balling, bro. I had to but yeah, like, so I would, play games with my siblings and my friends. And again, for a lot of listeners, they're like, what? There was a world without the internet, right? But, for me, rolling and with my friends, training partners, it's kind of like playing video games. Like if you and I were playing whatever, let's say Mario Kart, right? And you beat me in a race, like that little bit of me is going to be like, let's go again, right? It's like this fun sort of competition, right? Or, if we're playing Street Fighter or something and you knock my character out, instantly right at the start, you're going to be like, take that,
Yeah, 100%.
And I get that same sort of, smile and that sort of real like up of endorphins from training. And I went through a period where I had developed, or I was working on a variation to a straight footlock, just changing some very minor details to change the way it worked. And then I was just going through this period of time of having so much fun because I was just like footlocking everyone in the gym. And and people started to get desperate and scrambling not to let me grab their ankles, to the point where, people were almost just preferring to, I don't know, lie flat on their back and give me side control or something because they didn't want me anywhere near holding onto their feet. And I was having so much fun because I would roll with people and I would tap them in a footlock in like 10 seconds. I'd be like, That's
one of the worst ways to get tapped is like that and wrist locks.
Wrist locks. Yeah. But just thinking back on it, I had so much fun that like period of time, and even the fun aside, I then walk away with now, if I take it back to a more serious point of my jiu-jitsu as someone who's chosen jiu-jitsu as my career, I had this, 4-week period or whatever it was, 6-week period of developing a technique. And I really enjoy the strategy and the problem solving of jiu-jitsu. So I had this period of time of problem solving, developing, and then so many like literally fun, laugh out loud moments where I was like footlocking people and students, or training partners who thought they were safe, and then I could still get it and whatever. And, I've now had this really fun period of time, and I walk away from that, or I move on from that with a far superior footlock than I had previously. One that now I feel super comfortable that I could implement in competition or attempt it in competition, so I've now actually legitimately improved my jiu-jitsu, and I had heaps of fun doing it. Right. And so, that's just kind of gone back to when I always try to make it fun, and whether that is playing around with bearing bolos or footlocks or whatever. And sometimes the thing you play around with doesn't turn out to be that fun. The same way you play a different video game and, it turns out that
might be shit.
Yeah. You're like, man, I'm not really into this game. And you try a different one. So, that for me, that kind of happened with bolos, you know, every now and again, I'll pick them up again, but it didn't turn into something like the footlock did for me, where it became something where I was really like having so much fun doing it.
I think that could be a common pitfall for just about any sport, any game, or anything that you want to pursue like semi-seriously, or if you get to a point where you are pursuing it seriously, like taking a leaf out of your book for an analogy, like professional chess players, for example. Like when you see the best chess players in the world, when are they ever having fun? They look bored, like they look too serious and they're stressed, but chess is a game. Where's the fun in it? Yeah. And I think that there's a couple of super GMs that talk about that and say, you need to have fun at the end of the day. And that is when you do your best, because if you're having fun, you're relaxed, you're willing to try new things, and then you're going to perform better and it's going to be more fun.
Yeah. Like I would assume they do things to make it fun. Like the, is it Carlsen Magnus
Carlsen?
Magnus Carlsen, right? Who I don't know if he's still considered the best in the world.
He is ranked number one in the world in classic and blitz.
So he
showing my chess nerd.
Chess is a game I wish I was really good at.
Me too.
I'm
terrible.
I am not. And whenever it randomly comes up in conversation, people will be like, "Oh man, I know how to play. We should have a game one time."
Yeah. I love chess.
And then I get like 3 moves in, and I'm like, "Checkmate! How did that happen?" Like I'm really bad.
You're the type of guy that would get scolded, mate.
I'm really bad at chess. I just don't think I have the patience for it.
I actually can't play chess anymore. I'm too addicted.
Oh really?
Oh, I can't play. This is getting off topic, but I can't play games anymore, like video games in general. Because I was like you, as we've spoken about before, like grew up on video games, massive video game nerd, but I can't play them because I get so addicted so quickly. In chess, I can play like. I was trying to explain it to my friend Zach, and he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" He didn't get it because he was thinking chess is in like classical chess, where it's like 2 hours long. Where I could say, "Oh, I could play chess for like 4 hours straight," and not realize. But he's like, "That doesn't make sense." Like, it's a fucking slow game. But if you play things like blitz chess, where it's 3 minutes, everyone gets like 3 minutes on the clock online, you can just smash out like 10 games down, and then that's an hour, and then you just keep playing and playing and playing and playing, and that is what it's like for me.
Aren't you in a whole lot of debt now from Candy Crush and microtransactions?
Dude, I just cannot play like really stimulating video games like that. I just get too sucked in, and I I've got a very addicted.
Although you did
personality.
say to me off air that you're taking a week off for when Battlefield, the new,
Why would you out me like that?
the new game comes out.
Yeah, when Battlefield 2042 comes out, I was joking around saying that I'm going to take a week off work. Joking around in air quotes to play Battlefield. We should clip this and then use it as a Battlefield advertisement and see if we can get some clout from Battlefield.
I don't know if we want to. Wait, no. Does Battlefield have anything to do with Activision and Blizzard? Because if so, we don't want anything.
No, I think off the
anything
top of my head, I think Activision owns Call of Duty, but not Battlefield.
Right,
They're like
okay.
opposing. I don't even know who owns Battlefield.
Right. For anyone listening who's thinking what the hell we're talking about, Activision Blizzard is a gaming company that's currently going through massive lawsuits. You don't want anything to do with them right now.
Sex scandals and all sorts of crazy shit.
But going back to chess, yeah, I would assume that
Going back to chess or jiu-jitsu?
No, chess first, right?
Chess, we got to walk this back slowly.
Well, I mean, in Brazil, jiu-jitsu's called the physical
chess,
game of chess, right? But I would assume, professional GMs or even amateur chess players, right? Like you don't have to be a professional in whatever sport you do to need to make it fun. I would assume they do things like, whatever. There would have to be chess websites or whatever where you can modify the rules and stuff to make make it like novice and novel and fun and whatever.
Like you can play blind chess, like fog of war chess, I think they call it, where you can't see, you only see your opponent's moves as they make it. You can't see any pieces, only your own. So it's kind of like playing blind chess,
right?
But you're both sort of blind. You can play knights versus bishops, all sorts of crazy game modes. Or you could even implement some of your strategies that you were talking about for jiu-jitsu and just start working on a different opening or whatever. It's the same.
Because you've got different, obviously you've got different like sequences and openings and different
lines.
Different ways that you can perform a checkmate or whatever I know that's obviously the wrong way you do that.
Different ways you can move the horsey piece.
The
squiggly
and
one.
The zigzaggy one. And,
the uppy downy one.
But there's if you were sitting here and playing a GM now.
Yeah, I get smoked.
That GM could go, okay, I'm going to make sure I want to get checkmate with his king in that. On that 100%.
Yeah,
square.
they can call their checkmate. I get what you're saying. Yeah. It's the same as you when we roll. You're going to be like, I'm going to smite you with an armbar. And then you do it.
And so making it fun is super important. But unfortunately chess. Maybe one day, Kieren, you can show me some chess, but I'm not that
good.
Dude, I've played chess with a lot of people who have said they're not good.
Yeah.
They've kind of gone, I know how the pieces move. And I'm like, cool, let's have a game.
Yeah.
And I just get destroyed. I'm so bad, bro. It's kind of like if I ever play poker with my friends, which I don't, right? But they'll be like, yeah, let's have a poker night or whatever. I get 3 hands in, and regardless of what I've got, I'm just like, whatever, all in.
Oh, okay.
And
that's why you lose.
And then if I win, I'm going all in next hand.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I'm over this already.
You just seem impatient.
Yeah. But no,
it's
I
not
did.
your game.
My brother's into chess, and I've played him, quite a few times, and
Just smokes you.
Yeah, I'm really bad. I wish I was better, but I'm also. I guess I don't wish enough to invest any time to getting better.
I wish I was better, but I don't want to do anything to get there.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it's the same with jiu-jitsu. I wish I was better, but I couldn't. Nah.
Yeah.
I love jiu-jitsu.
But I guess if anything is fun, right, it's way easier to do.
Oh, 100%.
Jiu-jitsu's heaps of fun.
If you don't find jiu-jitsu fun, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Leave.
No, but legitimately, say if even if you have gotten to blue belt and you're going through the blue belt blues and you've gone and you've found your why, you've done the whole motivation versus discipline, you're consistently going. And even after the classes, if you're like, no, this is like, I'm not having fun, why are you there?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a good point to make. Like I've known people who have stopped training because they've literally just gotten to a point where they've said, I don't enjoy it anymore. And if that's the case, I mean, I guess that's different to burning out, right? That's a whole different thing. That's like, well,
it's like a realization.
Yeah. I mean, and that can happen with anything, right? Like it can happen with whatever activity I mean, people can be in the one career for a decade and get to a point where they're like, man, I don't enjoy what I do anymore.
Yeah.
And they change careers or,
straight up.
So, I mean, if that's a different thing, right? How do you avoid falling out of love with jiu-jitsu? That sounds.
Well, should you?
know.
Should you be avoiding it? Like, I'm not saying, and again, I think I'm talking to the like minority here, particularly if you're listening to a podcast called Beyond Jiu-Jitsu. It's safe to say that you're very interested and invested in jiu-jitsu. However, if you're in a position that, you know, maybe you've been training for a couple of years and you've had this nagging feeling that it's not for you, it may be that, you know, you don't want to be that person that is seen to quit or whatever, but perhaps you should. I'm not saying that you should, or like this is like predicated.
I'm just imagining I'm just imagining
just
this,
fucking quit, bro.
this like analytics of this episode where everyone stopped listening.
Yeah. It's like it
Just
literally
went,
at the 44-minute and 50-second mark. It's like, nah, fuck this guy. This guy's an idiot. But what I'm trying to say is basically after you've gone through the exercises, you've determined your why. You know, you've watched some David Goggins. You've looked at discipline versus motivation. You've looked at the people around you, your environment. You've experimented with different sequences in jiu-jitsu. You're working on different things, like blah blah blah. You're competing, and then if you reached all of that point and you still don't like it, then you probably don't fucking like it, bro.
Yeah,
but I dare say that is the minority. If someone actually used to love jiu-jitsu, say when they were a white belt or a junior blue belt, and then all of a sudden they've reached a point where they don't think they love it, you should just go through these steps.
Yeah.
And then you will probably fucking love it again. Like I highly doubt that, you know, the issue is jiu-jitsu. The issue is you, bro.
Yeah.
The issue is fucking you. Sort your life out.
You've pretty much described my exact relationship with blue cheese.
What the fuck? Blue cheese.
I've got one of my best friends loves it. My wife loves it. And I just keep being like, okay, I'll try it, you know. And I've gotten to a point where I'm like, nah, man, like I've tried like every different type of blue cheese in every different combination. It's just not for me, bro.
That's for me, for talking food for a moment, for me, that's donuts.
Really?
I fucking don't like donuts.
Really?
I straight up don't like donuts.
That is bizarre.
I've tried all types of donuts.
Because it's deep fried cake, bro.
Bro, it's so not. I've tried, you know, the glazed donuts, the jam ones, the Krispy Kremes. Like people when they find out that I don't like donuts,
they would mention Krispy Kreme.
Oh, but you haven't tried Krispy Kremes, right? Yeah, bro, I've tried every fucking Krispy Kreme there is. Like I've tried to love it so many times because I know people rave about donuts, and every time I mention it in public, it's people think it's sacrilege, right? It's one of those things you don't want to tell people. and another thing for me is tomato sauce. Just fucking no. I've tried it so many times.
They are two very mainstream things not to enjoy. Like at least blue cheese, you can be like, oh yeah, like it's a really strong flavor, strong smell. Like it kind of makes sense that some people don't like it, you know. But man, what don't you like about donuts? Like
they have a weird aftertaste for me. Or not even an aftertaste. They have a weird taste. Like there's something in donuts that like it all tastes the same. And I can't quite describe it. And I've tried to describe it to people before and they don't really know what I'm talking about. But to me, they have a very weird taste to them.
Is it to the point where like you just don't like them or where you're like, they're gross?
Like the taste is disgusting. Like,
oh my God.
I can't.
This whole time, Kieran's been like having donuts from a place that fries the donuts in the same oil as they deep fry the fish.
Dude, I've tried it.
There's
so many
weird.
Different donuts. Like I've tried it for years. Ever since I was a kid, I've tried to like them, and I've tried it again as an adult. I've the same with you and blue cheese, man. Wow. And I just cannot. I cannot.
And tomato sauce is a whole nother thing. That's pretty un-Australian.
Don't even start me, bro. We'll just have a roll on the table right now. But I just cannot. No, donuts definitely no. And
so what do you put on a meat pie?
I don't put sauce on a meat pie.
Bro,
I do not. I fucking love meat pies.
This has gotten awkward, bro.
No, I do not like tomato sauce. It is gross. It has this really weird, sweet. It's like eating sugar with your food.
It is. It has a lot of sugar.
Dude,
in it.
It's literally, to me, it tastes like. I like tomatoes. Don't get me wrong. I love tomatoes. I love tomato paste, but tomato sauce is just sugar and it tastes like shit. Why would you put sugar on a food? If I gave you a meat pie and a fucking bucket of sugar, would you want to dump sugar on your pie?
You know I would.
Yeah, you probably would.
Do you think it's more to do with the fact that you we've mentioned lots of times that you're a nutritionist, but not only you.
No, this is since I was a kid.
No. Oh, right. Okay. Like because I was going to
Always
say, is
disliked
it?
both of them since like a
Yeah,
little
right.
kid? Yeah.
Because I was thinking maybe it was more the fact
Because I
that
know
you.
what's in the food.
Well, yeah, and you don't really eat a lot of sugar, like because you're not a nutritionist who's some fat dude who tells people what to eat and not follow it. Like you follow, a specific nutrition plan and everything in your life. So, because I know whenever I cut out sugar altogether due to weight cutting or whatever the reason, then after X period of time and I then have some sugar, you're like, oh my God, that's so sweet.
Yes.
I remember I went, like, I don't really drink soft drink anyway, but one time I went, a year or whatever it was, I had no soft drink. It was when I was younger, I was early 20s, and, I cut out all alcohol besides like clear alcohol. So like the only alcohol I would drink was vodka sodas. So, whereas typically prior to that, I would drink rum and Coke and whatever, right? And then I remember after a year or 18 months or whatever it was, and I had a rum and Coke, I was like, I couldn't believe how sweet it was.
Wow.
I was like shocked. I was like, oh my God.
Did you know that technically rum has less calories than vodka?
No, I didn't know that.
It's a technicality for you. But the reason
bring the rum.
but the reason people go with vodka sodas is because soda water is, just carbonated water. It doesn't have
opposed to Coke or something.
Yeah, it doesn't have any sugar. It doesn't have any artificial flavorings or anything like that. Well, depending on the soda, but like in general. Whereas like a Coke and Coke also has caffeine as well.
Don't they say that the darker spirits have more sugar, or is that a myth?
I believe it's a myth. Now, someone's probably going to write in and correct me here, but I was reading. This was a couple of years ago. I was reading a few articles that were linked with studies that were talking about the lowest calorie alcohol. They always resurface around like holiday times, like any time around Christmas. All those fitness bloggers or whoever will always release articles about how to survive the Christmas period.
Yeah.
And alcohol is a hot topic on there. And I remember reading a couple of years ago that rum is the lowest caloric
But do you think
alcohol.
Do you think they're talking about white rum?
Well, shit, that's a good point. Yeah, okay. You've just thrown a spanner into my worldview. But if you're curious out there on how to calorie count alcohol, it's 1 gram of alcohol equals 7 calories.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
1 gram of alcohol. Yeah, that doesn't account for whatever else is in the beverage though, right?
Oh, of course, that's purely alcohol.
Yeah.
So if you had a shot of, say, vodka and it had 70 grams of alcohol in it, then that's 749.
Yeah.
490 calories.
Yeah, right.
Which, that's a lot. 70 grams is a lot of alcohol. But you're more likely to have about 10 grams of alcohol in like a shot, and that's 70 calories.
Right. Should we have some shots now?
Bro, I haven't actually drank any alcohol in about 2 years.
Yeah, I haven't had any alcohol in.
And I don't mean like I've had
months?
like 1 or 2 drinks. I can tell you the last time I had an alcoholic drink.
When was it?
It was at a wedding.
Did you get naked on the table and that's why you haven't had anything since?
No. On that night, I had like 3 drinks. It was, I was a best man at a wedding and I had like 3 drinks.
And you got loose.
No. No. And that's the last time I had alcohol. And that was in 2018?
There would have to be quite
2019.
There would have to be quite a lot of drinking that goes on in the Navy, right?
Oh yeah, we've so derailed from the topic, but
I was looking at our episode notes, and I was like,
fuck it.
Calorie counting, getting drunk in the Navy.
Oh man, the alcohol culture in the Navy is bad, and I think it's because particularly when you're on a seagoing ship, and it pulls into a foreign port. The crew gets let loose and they go wild. Like
I would imagine.
They go fucking wild. And it's no secret. Like and it's because that they work so hard at sea. Particularly if you're watch keeping, you're fatigued. You're very.
What's watch keeping?
Watch keeping is like keeping night watches. Like so, you're say for example,
like essentially on night shift.
Yeah, sort of. But you're like 4 hours on, 8 hours off, like around the clock. So 4 on, 8 off, or the worst one I've never experienced.
How do you
this.
get into a rhythm? 4 hours on, 8 hours off.
It's tough. And the worst one, which I have been in my opinion, is called 5s and 7s, where you're on for 5 hours, then you're off for 7, then you're on for 7 hours, off for 5, and that's like on repeat.
Oh my God.
Yeah, dude, it's fucked. So, not to derail this too much, but in my opinion, the worst night keeping watches when you're what's called 1 in 3. So you're one watch keeper out of 3 of you. So 3 of you, on rotating watches, and the worst watch combo is called guts. In my opinion, it's the worst. It's from midnight to 4 in the morning, and then you're off for 8 hours. And depending on your ship, some ships make you get up at 8 in the morning. So you come off at 4, you sleep for 4 hours, you wake up, you do pretty much a full working day, and then you're on for the afternoon watch, which is 12 to 4. So it's 12 to 4, 12 to 4.
So you still do your regular day shift
a
as
lot
well?
of the time, yeah. So there used to be a culture, it was around when I first joined the Navy, but it's sort of like leaving, that officers don't sleep during the day. So if you have a night watch where you are on for the guts watch, as it's called, or the official name for it's middle watch, but it's referred to as guts. And again, that's from midnight to 4 in the morning. You get relieved at 4 in the morning, you go to sleep, and then when wakey is piped, which basically it's like a alarm clock for the entire ship, you get up, and that's around 8 o'clock.
So
or 7:30, I think, depending on the ship.
If it was me and then I'm on that shift,
yes,
and the ship pulls into a foreign port and people go haywire, I would just stay on the ship and sleep.
You would think that, but the thing. Let me again. Like we're wrapping this up anyway. So let me paint the picture for you. If you are on the guts watch and you're coming into a foreign port, most of the time we come into the foreign ports very early in the morning. So like before sunrise, a lot of the time, like because the approach takes like
so long.
Man, it takes so long to explain. But yeah,
you have to have a pilot come on.
No.
Usually
It depends. We do bring on pilots, but the ship is piloted by the navigator. So when I was navigating, because I was a navigator when I was a minor war vessel navigator, I was navigating HMAS Childers when we did an operation called Operation Augury, which was an anti-ISIS thing up in the Philippines. When we came into a foreign port, Cebu, we brought on a pilot, but I was actually physically driving the ship. Like I had a helmsman, but I was driving the ship. So Navy vessels are exempt from piloting laws.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
we should have covered this in your episode
we didn't really talk too much about it, but just as a quick aside for those that are interested, when a Navy ship is in an Australian port, they don't even bring on a pilot. We don't even bring one on.
Yeah.
The only exception is in Townsville for an LHD, because it's an incredibly difficult pilotage.
Right.
Which a pilotage is basically piloting a ship into a harbour. So think Sydney Harbour, when you see the big cruise ships come on, they have a pilot. They have a pilot.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, one of the Sydney pilots is an ex-Navy navigator.
Yeah, right.
And they get paid like $400,000 a year, and they work.
Do they really?
Months. Yeah, they get paid a lot of money. So my previous boss, he got poached. Well, not poached, but he got offered a job to be a pilot in Newcastle, and he's on like way more money and working way less.
So
it's lucrative.
When we did the episode talking about a bit about your background, I asked, why didn't you potentially go into
very different from merchant navy. Very different. So a pilot.
But is that not something you could have potentially gone in that direction?
But let me just again expand on that. These people are the best of the best. Like my previous boss was one of, if not the best navigator I have ever met. He is incredible. Like I don't want to, boost him up too much. He's,
is he sorry?
Very, very
he's
good.
Still in the Navy, or he's a pilot now?
What month is it? No, I think he's getting out this month.
Is he going on to?
Going on to be a pilot in Newcastle, so he's going to be on like ridiculous money. He'll get to live up in Newcastle where his family is. Was it Newcastle or Brisbane? No, sorry, I think it's Brisbane. It's Brisbane. Right. Sorry, I misremembered. It is Brisbane. And one of the pilots in Sydney, which is the highest paid pilots, they work like a roster, like 4 on 4 off or something like that, or 5 on 5 off, and they get paid about $400,000.
Good money.
Yeah. But the general point I was trying to make is when
When you come
when
in,
a Navy ship,
when you're on guts and you pull into
Yeah.
a foreign port,
Yeah.
you don't nap. What do you do?
well, like for example, if I was on the guts watch as maybe not a navigator because I write the watch bill, so I wouldn't put myself on that if I was piloting in. It's a bit silly.
Yeah.
I'd put myself on morning, so I'd get up and take over at 4, so I'm preparing for it. But say, for example, I was an officer of the watch, which this happened to me many times. Maybe, we're coming into Hawaii or something like that. I'm on guts, so I get up at 4 and I have a 4-hour watch. I'm pretty much awake because by the time my watch ends, the pilotage is about to begin in like 2 hours. So I could either go sleep for 2 hours and then get up, or an hour and get up and help, because it's like a whole bridge team evolution. All the officers of the watch are there. The navigator's there, the captain's there, the XO's there, all the command team is there, because it's a big thing. Like it's one of the most, not the most dangerous things we do, but it's all hands on deck, quite literally. And and then when you pull into a foreign port, there's heaps of shit to do. Maybe I'm officer of the day. Maybe I have to do all these admin. There's a whole ship evolution.
Yeah,
like we take out the garbage.
It's not like
100%
100% of the staff abandon the ship and go off and party on the island or whatever.
As soon as you pull in, it's the most busy time for a ship, because everyone's running around doing something, right? Because it's a big evolution to logistics to restore the ship, get all the trash off, do all this liaison with like, where are we? What are we doing? So if it's like a foreign port, like flag waving, as we call them, visit, like say in, somewhere like the Philippines, a good example, or I don't know, Pacific Island, like Fiji or something like that, we got a full schedule of shit we're doing. And guess what? Particularly as a junior officer, you're going to be there. You're going to be doing stuff. Oh yeah.
So this episode we can call How to Avoid Burning Out and Why You Shouldn't Join the Navy.
Yeah, this was like a 15-minute riff on the Navy at the end. But, anyway.
But before we got onto the Navy, we did kind of summarized everything we went over, but just to recap it again, asking yourself why you're training, why.
Start with why, yeah.
Think about, understand the difference between motivation and discipline, make it fun. So we're all like you said, looking internally, make it fun, kind of like a video game, enjoy. You got to remind yourself that you do it because it's fun, and, do the different techniques.
Yeah, change it up. Yeah.
And whatever you find enjoyable. After that, if you're still having issues, you might want to look externally. Do you not enjoy the people you train with? Do you not like your coach? Maybe you like your coach, but he doesn't really seem invested in you, and start looking at,
if you've done all of that and, jiu-jitsu is still not for you, then consider joining the Navy.
Yeah. Nice. All right.
Don't join the Navy.
Kieren, wrap it up. Let's make our intro short this time.
The outro short.
The outro short. They usually take about 20 minutes.
Yeah, we just spent a minute talking about the outro, so this one is even longer. So, thank you for listening to the episode. Next episode, we actually have our second Q&A, Ask a Black Belt segment.
Recurring segment. Yeah.
I'm really excited about episode number 20. So get around it. Stay tuned for the next episode. But if you want to support the show, you can find us on Instagram at @BeyondJujitsu_podcast. And if you want to submit a question to the show to be featured on the next Q&A episode, there is now on our link tree, you can find a form to submit your question to the show, and we'll read your question on air and answer it. It can be about jiu-jitsu, about nutrition, or some questions that you'll see, not about those things.
Not jiu-jitsu related.
But those will be interesting. And if you want to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. A link to that is on our Instagram, or you can simply search Beyond Jiu Jitsu Podcast on Patreon. Every little bit helps. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.